Tuesday night, everybody. So I'm really excited because I haven't really talked about studying yet. And this is something that I get questions about all the time. And even that I openly say I did not have the greatest GPA. And part of it was because I had not learned my study habits. Like most of us who go into engineering or usually any kind of STEM field, is, usually high school kind of came easy. Usually most of us were good at math or science, or at least were really interested in it. And that's kind of why we wanted to continue on that kind of path. So being able to come into college, and whether it be calculus or physics or chemistry, that just really kind of had a rude awakening for you. Then you kind of had this oh crap, maybe this isn't, exactly what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. So I wanted to be able to answer your questions, or maybe even have some of you guys that are joining this live feed. If you've been catching it after, please feel free to drop in the comments and let us know what's worked for you. What are some things to avoid? Some good things that you've done, some bad things that you've done, maybe even some myths that you've heard. So just to get started, I kind of wanted to, again, just kind of start with that, right? So first and foremost, like anything else, kind of leading with your strengths always helps. So knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not so good at, and then being able to kind of fill in the blanks. So in my group, the Super Senior Support Group, thanks for those who voted and submitted your responses about how you actually study. And so I'll kind of review those just to kind of, again, give a little bit of insight as to the different options. So many times when we're studying, we just think we, have to lock ourselves in a room. We're sitting at the desk in the back corner or even in the library. And sometimes that's actually not, again, the best way for us to learn, to be able to get the creative juices flowing, or even to problem solve the majority of the time. So some of the questions I had asked for examples is in preparation for an exam, again, what do you do to prepare? How do you study? The majority had review past homeworks and quizzes. Obviously, good start. Read the book. That's another good start. Go through class notes. The majority study by themselves. Only 2 people actually did extra problems and examples. And then 2 people, again, said that they actually joined a study group. I had 0 responses for getting a study buddy, and nobody said that they crammed the week of, which in reality, I know there's a lot of y'all that cram the week of. And so with even that, right, to give an insight as to how people study, how students in, again, the situations actually study for themselves. One big one is, to go back and read the book is really great. But at this point, you should already have read the book. And then 2, have actually even highlighted, taken notes. You should have tabs in your textbook. So one big thing that I've, again, very much of a advocate for, proponent, which I learned myself, is actually reading and taking notes before class. Because then whenever you get to class, as your professor is going over that, or even your TA for lab or lecture, to be able to have those questions hey, I understood this concept in the book plain as day. When it got to point 4, 5, and 6, totally got lost. Felt like it was Greek or in a whole nother language to me. Can you help me sort through it? So again, once you kind of already have a basis and you know what you know, then it's a lot easier to start picking apart what you don't know and to be able to highlight that. So again, that's kind of step number 1 of even just attending class ready to learn versus oh, I'm going to see this material for the first time in class. You're already starting a little bit behind. So that's, again, step number 1. And so then number 2, whenever you start studying, again, you can, as you're going through your textbook, it should be used as a resource, right? Not as, the Holy Bible and you only touch it every now and then, but being able to have your textbook tabbed, again, underlined, ready to go. You should have even your own questions. So that way, next time, whenever you go back to study or review your notes, again, whether quizzes or homework, or see how you did based on what you thought you had known before, then you can go back and say, hey, I struggled with this part. I even highlighted, put it in red, had red marker, don't know this or got this wrong. Then you can be able to start being able to digest the things that you still maybe need work on or a little more extra time. And so tip number 2, go to office hours. If you have not yet seen your professor outside of class, you're doing it wrong. And then also kind of 2A, go see your TA or even upperclassmen that took the class. I mean, obviously they passed it. It's particularly if they took the same professor or even, again, the same TA. Being in that environment, they know, again, oh, you know what? Test number 2 was way harder than test number 1, or it was so much easier. Like, be prepared. If you can get your hands on an old test, usually professors will, change it a little, but at least you have an idea of the concepts that they covered. So again, having a mentor or reaching out to upperclassmen is always a plus. Hence, shameless plug, find an organization like SHIP, like ASME, ASCE, any, tech organizations, the sororities, fraternities as well. Again, they have like alumni that have been there, done that. Again, have the tests or quizzes for you to review. So by all means, try to find any kind of resource to help you out there. Again, once you have an idea of how to study and how to go about it, and again, by all means, guys, like the professors aren't trying to make you fail. They want to see you succeed. And if the whole class fails, I mean, they're not doing good being a teacher either, right? So by all means, again, try to have those conversations. Stay after class, ask them the more difficult questions, or if you even had to, again, we're stuck on something stumped you, by all means, jump right in, ask those questions, because I promise you're not the only one with a question, and everyone's going to thank you later for actually doing that. For tip number 3, figure out, again, kind of all self-awareness, but when are you at your prime, right? So like, when do you just feel totally alive? Is it like 7 o'clock in the morning, you jump out of bed and you're just like ready to hit the floor running? Or is it more so like 8 o'clock at night and you just like tend to come alive? Is it that you're a night owl? Like, what is your preference and how do you focus on that? So again, if you're a morning person and that's just your like peak productivity, wake up, jump on it, right? Like, study. That's when you're kind of, again, your brain is in your element. So make sure that you're doing that and taking full advantage of it. But again, you have to know and pay attention to your peak prime. Sorry, guys. My cat apparently wants to join. He's making all kinds of noise. If you're wondering what that is, he's very jealous. I'm talking to you guys and not him. So essentially, let me know, like, what is your peak hours? For those that are on the live feed, are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? Is like lunchtime totally your jam? Let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to know. I personally am a morning person. I am like super productive the first 3 hours I'm awake. For whatever reason, that's actually why I do yoga, why like I meditate. I actually create my content for any of this at the beginning of the day, because again, that's just kind of like when I'm the most productive and get things done. Again, usually I'll do like, again, the yoga, creativity, all that kind of stuff first thing in the morning. Then I run to work, get started with all my like top 3 things I have to do throughout the day. And it just it creates a whirlwind. So once I kind of do those first few things and get it going, it's a lot easier to kind of build momentum off of that. As I start dying down for the day, it's just kind of winding down, not so serious anymore. Sorry, I'm like debating on whether or not to throw something at him so I don't have this noise annoying me anymore. So what else? Peak productivity hours. Also, like, what kind of foods do you eat? I know that's kind of like a weird question, and I'm waiting for responses. So let me know what you guys, again, what your peak hours are. Do you, again, are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? Again, is lunchtime like your thing? But even furthermore, again, like, what do you eat? For me, like, if I eat like any kind of sugars, it like really just burns me down. I just feel so heavy and like weighted. If I eat any kind of like heavy pasta or starches, like, I'm done for. I've noticed if I eat like poke bowls or any kind of like sushi, I just feel so alive. The freshness of it, it's just so refreshing. Sorry guys, I'm like really gonna wait for my cat to finish here. But again, being able to do that. How do you eat? Do you drink enough water? Do you not drink enough water? Paying attention again to like whether or not you had a soda or maybe even like an energy drink makes a huge difference about, again, how your brain is functioning because of what you're introducing, new things or old. And again, you're essentially fueling your body. So what you're fueling it with, makes a huge difference on how you're performing as well as memory. So something too, it's really funny. If you Google best foods to eat for studying, you get like a list of like 15 top things. And what's always funny is any kind of neurologist will, mention again, the fuel that you're sending your body to. So anything high with omegas or healthy fats, so something like salmon or even eating eggs, They say dark chocolate helps. And what's even funny is my cousin is a lawyer who, like, went all through undergraduate, also got her law degree. And, her life was studying. She was like a professional student. And so she gave tips of actually even something to kind of trick your brain, which I think were like a tip number 5 or 6. I'm so sorry, guys. This is like ridiculous. If only I could have someone to come save and remove my cat from the window. But we'll see how that goes. So anyway, being able to, make it accordingly, again, like what you're doing and how you're going about it. So again, kind of the tip behind it is something that can even trigger your brain to what you were doing, where you were doing it, is something as simple as chewing a different kind of gum. So I'm not a gum chewer, so that's not big for me. But if you could like chew spearmint gum while you're studying and then chew spearmint gum while you're taking the test, it again kind of like associates your brain with like, hey, last time I was chewing this gum, this is what I was doing. And this is what I was remembering. This is where I was at. This is what I was looking at. And so anytime you do that, and for even guys or girls too, I guess, but if you have a different kind of cologne, again, any kind of like tying in your senses to that makes a huge difference. So again, spray a certain kind of cologne when you're studying, only wear it for studying and exams. And again, it kind of helps trigger the brain, like, okay, brain, this is what we're doing. Like we're working on physics, or we're working on calculus 3 at this time. This is what we're doing. And we're going to start building off of that. So again, it's just almost kind of like a reminder. Same thing, like, whenever you put on your gym shoes, and you're like, okay, like we're going to go do this. So by all means, it's kind of like a mechanism of your trigger of your neurology, which is super cool. I can go on all the time about that. But even that, again, is there anything in particular you do to psych yourself out, or to even be your own reminder of, get yourself ready, what's going on? Another tip and trick, if you have like a TI-89 calculator, you can actually enter some equations. So if you know that there's things that you don't associate one with the other, or it's difficult for you to remember even what X dot means, stuff like that, you can actually like type into your calculator and, set it as a memo to yourself. So you can always pull it up. And again, it's just kind of a reference guide. So again, every now and then, you're not going to pull out the whole, equation or work out an entire problem, but just kind of those things to remind you, or even, the equation of a line, right? Y equals mx plus b. So again, simple stuff like that you can kind of tie in. And again, once you kind of have a reminder to kind of help things going and kind of kick you back into gear. Another tip or trick is actually, again, creating like a pre-test for yourself. So give yourself, if you know there's going to be 4 problems or 7 problems on the exam, usually your professors will tell you ahead of time, again, chapters 1 through 5, pick random problems. I would highly suggest doing like towards the end of the book, the harder problems, and then actually just test yourself, like have a practice exam, sit down, give yourself, again, an hour or 50 minutes or however long you have, and just start working through them and see where you get stuck or what catches yourself. Because then once you kind of put yourself in that, again, test exam practice, you start seeing, oh man, I got stuck here. I did the wrong positive or negative sign here. So the more you kind of just recreate it, your body's not going to freak out when you like show up to the test. And again, you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, do I remember it all? Do I know this? You're able to kind of catch yourself and again, retrain your brain. Like, okay, brain, this isn't the first time we've done this. It's not our first rodeo. We're showing up again. We're doing it, for a second, third, fourth time. So being able to kind of, again, recreate that opportunity for your brain, your body, like your nerves to get used to. And then the more it's kind of repetitive, right? So for you juniors and seniors, usually it's not as chaotic. It's not as scary. You've kind of done it already. You know whether or not you're going to sit in the back of the room, the front of the room. You kind of learn what you're doing. And a lot of that, again, takes practice. So if you can set up ways to practice before the actual exam, you're going to be a lot better off. And then also kind of a big, I want to say like psychological mindset shift is actually psyching yourself up before. So if you like feel great dressing up or like putting on makeup or doing your hair, or even guys, again, wearing that special cologne that you just feel like a total badass in, by all means, like when you feel great, like again, you're sending like neurological signals to yourself, like, hey, I'm in a great mood. Or if you just show up in sweats and you're just kind of like, oh my God, I haven't slept, so on and so forth, like your body's going to respond to that. So again, by all means, eat the best foods you can, take care of yourself, definitely sleep. And again, this is just all about taking care of yourself. And again, don't even know what tip this is, but being able to bring it all together. So again, definitely a lot of sleep. If you're trying to cram stuff and you're pulling an all-nighter, you're actually doing more harm than good. There's to get to a certain point where your brain is no longer associating the connections with what you're trying to teach it. You need to let it rest, obviously, to be able to pull it back and regurgitate later on. So again, by all means, take it easy. It's not just going to crank it right back out. And then even that, again, like psych yourself up, like do something fun. Something I personally did was literally have a playlist of my favorite songs that would just get me so hyped. So that way I was not focused about the test the first 5 or 10 minutes before. I was just having fun. And like I came in like singing and dancing and like singing to myself. Because again, like I'm excited, I'm having fun. So when I sit down to take a test, I'm not like super stressed out and totally overthinking it and doing all the equations in my head, because again, when I sit down to actually read the question, I already have so many things going on in my head. It could be asking something totally different, but I already have a pre-notion or conception of what I was thinking about and totally apply the wrong equation or even not even fully read the question that's in front of me. So again, just slow down, take a breath, and again, just be able to focus on what you know, what you don't know. And so again, something as simple as, again, reviewing your quizzes. Something again too is like take the PDFs or blank out the answers and just try it again. Again, being able to catch your problems or what you did or didn't do. If you have graded homework or any kind of quizzes that you didn't finish or got partial credit on, again, like go and meet with other students. And I'll even tell you this, like challenge yourself. Don't just stick with your usual study group. Don't just hang out with your friends. Go to someone who got a higher grade than you. And yes, like, I don't care if it's the weird person, like doesn't wear socks and like sits in the front of class at the front row, like that's the person you need to be studying with. And if you're the smartest person in your study group, you're doing it wrong, first and foremost. And then second, if you, again, don't have a study group, like you need to find one ASAP, now-ish. Like today. So again, being able to surround yourself with people that maybe get a different concept than you or have different experiences or exposure. They'll understand one piece of it and maybe you could solve another and together you kind of get it. Or you'll get problems 1 through 6 and they'll get, 15 through 29. And then sometimes, again, that missing piece is going to be that third person you need to add. So again, surrounding yourself with maybe again smarter people that think differently than you is going to be a huge resource versus you just sitting, studying by yourself with a book or even Google, right? Like Wolfram Alpha could only go so far. Being able to kind of remind you of those tips and tricks and again, kind of like loopholes where you can remember things. And then that's another thing too, is my last tip for the night. If you guys don't have any comments or questions, and if you do, drop them in, let me know. But again, it's just to have fun, if there's something difficult or something that's not resonating with you, try to find a way to like actually find it in a real life application, or ask a certain, again, professional, or even try to find someone who's like all about it, whether it be again through a club or I don't even know, someone that does it every day. Ask them like, hey, I'm having a really hard time, associating this, and it's like really not resonating. How do you make sense of it? So by all means, like really just kind of have fun with it, or even create a story. That was something too, is I would like kind of make up a story to remember, I don't know if any of you guys remember, right? Like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And it was kind of fun, but you remember like, okay, parentheses, exponents, and you just kind of go around. So it's something simple like that, where you're kind of creating, again, these like neurological, like little pinpoints for you to go back and kind of pick off of that. Oh, great. So one question. Thank you, ma'am. How many days would you advise for us to start studying before a test? That is a great question. Again, being like a big sister, Mama Bear up here, you should actually start like literally the first day of lecture. So whenever you get the syllabus and they tell you this is like the exam schedule, you're even just like the week of, like make sure that you're taking note of that and then kind of start preparing readily. So if the professor is saying, hey, exam 1 is going to be on chapters 1 through 5, like you should be taking notes after chapter 1. So something I would do too is, example, if you have a class Monday and Wednesday, and Friday's your off day, you should probably be taking that Friday to just go back and review your notes from Monday and Wednesday. Fill in the blanks. Again, meet with your study group either on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Again, try to like tie different things together and see, again, what you missed, what you got, what you didn't get. Again, literally reviewing how you did before. Think of your thought process through, again, your quizzes and homeworks. And so, again, to answer your question, like at the very least, if you haven't been doing that throughout the semester, 2 weeks is a really good starting point, because then you can start piecing it together instead of having to try to rush and try to like push yourself like in the week of or anything else. So if you have 14 days, again, 21 days is actually like the rule of thumb for neurological like habits to create. So if you can create, again, even just 14 days, reintroducing yourself to the material a little at a time, again, don't cram 14 chapters, one per day, but a little at a time, just reintroducing concepts. Because if you've been in class, again, let's just say for 2 weeks, and then you do the following 2 weeks of still, because obviously classes don't stop, you're still introducing them a new material, but you're reminding yourself of the material that's happening. That foundational material will obviously can carry over into weeks 3 and 4, but now being able to reintroduce 1 and 2. So by the time week 5 comes, and here you are already again on chapter 5, and your test is in a week, you've already kind of reintroduced, 1 and 2. Now you can review 2, 3, and 4 again. And as you're doing it, just becomes like a cyclical collaboration, if you will, of material. So it's actually a really great question. I don't know when your test is, but best of luck. Hopefully it goes really well. Again, let me know if y'all have any other questions. Is there anything in particular? Actually, I'm really interested, is there something that you eat or drink or do to make you feel good? Let me know again in the comments. Any other questions? Again, I am here, an open book. Again, I learned from experience because I had a horrible time studying at first, until you just kind of have to find your groove. But also, again, like psyching yourself up and having fun and being excited. And even if it's something as simple as, lighting a candle for yourself or saying a prayer before you go in. It's funny because, again, my cousin was like, light a candle to La Virgen and like on you go. And so by all means, if there's anything in particular, again, that you would feel, and honestly, I would text my family. We have a family group chat, and I would just be like, hey guys, gonna go take my thermal exam. Please send good vibes and prayers. I'll need it. So by all means, again, anything that you think, is on your side, brings positive energy to you. Again, something as simple as dancing or having fun before kind of just really releases positive, vibes within your own self, within your own circle. So again, something as simple as, again, psyching yourself up, getting excited, having fun. And again, anything that you're struggling with actually tying it together with something, again, try to find another way, or even discuss it with another person, or heck, even just go around your class and be like, hey, does anybody get this? Like, this is boring. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. So maybe that could be that one person that nerds out and that's their passion. And if they talk to you about it, like, it's just going to totally make sense. So again, thanks for tuning in, guys. If y'all have any other comments, questions, concerns, again, tips and tricks, let me know if they work for you. If there's anything in particular that I didn't mention that it just like blows the charts and just makes you an amazing exam taker, or just makes you really in the mood for studying. I know some people listen to classical music. Everybody else just kind of finds their own groove. Particularly for me, I couldn't listen to music with words in it. So classical music was the way to go, or even like electronic classical was my thing. And so by all means, let me know again in the comment section if there's anything. And then the ugly truth is, again, you're going to get in what have you put out. So you cannot reap what you don't sow. And vice versa, right? Like, you can't expect to just study the night before or even the week of and have a positive. You either know the material or you don't. So again, introducing yourself, asking those questions, not being afraid, again, to reach out to the super nerds of the class and ask them if they'd be willing to help you or give, advice or support in the homework, or even, again, reviewing quizzes with you. So again, the ugly truth is just putting in the work, showing up, being persistent. And again, feel free to drop comments, questions. Again, please share anything that works for you guys. And I'll check y'all next week for another live session. Thanks again. This is Brianne C. Martin, the People Engineer, signing off. Bueno, bye.